How's it going? It is so good
Good.
to
How
see
are
you. You
you?
look so cute.
You look amazing. Stunning, stunning.
Thank you so much. I love your tea mug. That is incredible.
There's a little cactus in the middle, which
Oh
makes
my
it
God, that is incredible. So you drink it down, it just slowly appears.
slowly see a cactus.
I love it. I love it. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. I am so excited. Y'all are here. Y'all are showing up in the live. Hello, Tazo. Thank you, SZA, so much for that really amazing introduction. My name is Patricia Gonia. I am an intersectional environmentalist, drag queen, professional homosexual, and today I am so honored to be able to be chatting with the one and only Leah Thomas.
Hi, everybody. My name is Leah Thomas. I'm honored to be here with the Patagonia, but I am the founder of Intersectional Environmentalists, and a lot of the work that I do explores the relationship between social justice, identity, and environmentalism. And I'm just so pumped. This is kind of my first climate week where I'm in a lot of programming, and I'm just super stoked to be here with you.
Heck yeah. So yeah, as Leah just mentioned, we are so excited to be here with Tazo. We are so excited to be here as a part of Climate Week. And our chat today is all about outdoor equity. And I think we hear this term all the time, but we're like, but what does it mean though? So today we're going to dive into just the real about what is outdoor equity? How can we all practice it? What are some barriers that people face? And really just kind of dive into the conversation. So before we go further, we need to grab our tea because this conversation is also a part of the series Intersectionality. And we'll take a little sip. Myra is joining us. And yeah, let's just dive into the conversation. Are you ready, Leah?
Yeah, let's get it. Let's get into
Let's
it.
do this. So, to kind of start with the basics, what is outdoor equity? What is it to you? How do we define it? Let's start there.
Yeah, it's such a good question, and it probably means a lot of different things to different people. But to me, outdoor equity is all about everyone, regardless of their identity or any identity aspect, having access to all that Mother Nature has to offer. So, whether that means having resources to be able to go and explore national parks, or having like parks and recreational areas in their own communities. And unfortunately, which we'll get into, a lot of communities, it's, disproportionate. They don't all have access to get outdoors and explore just wild, amazing spaces. So ensuring that everyone has access to do so. But what about you? What does it mean to you?
No, I love that. I could not agree more. I think it's really easy because of our privilege a lot of the time. It blinds us to realizing that people can't get into the outdoors in the same ways. Think about what a privilege it is to have a car to be able to go to a national park. Think about what a privilege it is to have trees in your neighborhood, to have access to green spaces. And so I think that like starting there is really important when we talk about outdoor equity. But when we think about outdoor equity too, I also think about when we are outdoors, are we making people feel safe, and are they safe, and how can we advocate for different groups that might be more underrepresented in the safety they experience or do not experience outdoors. So I think that outdoor equity is kind of like this two-part thing. Of course it's very intersectional, but I think it's about making sure everyone can access the outdoors, and then when they're feeling safe. So yeah,
That's
thanks for asking that question, Leah. But yeah, I would like be really curious to hear from you. Like, how do you think that, like, what's the intersectionality between outdoor equity and advancing climate solutions?
This is really important. So I feel like when people are able to spend time outside,
Mm,
outdoors, especially without, so what's really, really sad is that a lot of communities of color are living in areas without a lot of trees. So there's even tree inequity. And because of that, are living in areas of increased air pollution or increased water pollution. So it's really hard to develop a beautiful and harmonious relationship with nature if people are living in environments that are unsafe for them. So,
mm.
in addition to that, their own neighborhoods, being able to go outdoors and explore and kind of having the resources to go out and be out in nature. I was a National Park Service Ranger intern, and a lot of our visitors, quite frankly, kind of looked a certain way. There weren't always a lot of BIPOC because I was in a lot of really remote places. So the intersectionality component would probably be just how big identity plays a role and whether or not people have a safe living environment in their
Mm.
own community, in addition to whether or not they have access to go explore national parks or other places like that. So I think it's really important to consider identity because it plays a role. And I have a question for you. So outdoor equity impacts a lot of different communities, like the BIPOC community and even the LGBTQ plus community. What
Mm.
are some of the ways that outdoor inequity impacts the LGBTQ plus community?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, uh, I think about my own experience as a queer person, but way more than that, I think about the experiences I hear from queer people all the time that are in the outdoors. And I think what people really don't realize, what I really didn't even realize until I spent some time processing this, is queer people, since we're born, by a majority of people, are told that we're unnatural, we're wrong, we are literally against nature. So why would we want to go outside and experience it? Why would we want to be connected to it? And I think also, thinking about like the trajectory of what outdoorsy is, it's been for extremely masculine people. It's been for people to go out and conquer. It's been for people to not be with or experience the beauty of, but to, go out and like bag that peak or go out and like accomplish that thing. And so I think that makes a lot of queer people feel like the outdoors aren't for them, and also just thinking about the traditional queer narrative of running to cities for acceptance, because it's really where we have found acceptance. It really is not running into the woods like the little fairies that we are. I think we're really experiencing a change in that, thankfully, thanks to the work of so many people in the outdoors that are really trying to make community for queer people. But yeah, I think it doesn't just necessarily affect people based on race or ethnicity, but also different parts of their identity too, even culturally. What does it look like culturally for different communities to go outside? For some people that might look like just going outside to cook and enjoy food, or just be with friends, not hiking or backpacking 100 miles. So I'm here for everyone that wants to define adventure in the outdoors, however that looks like for them, because we need more gay fairies and more diverse people in the outdoors dancing around like the fairies that they are.
I couldn't agree more. And I think when I'm looking at, or I'm thinking about like the BIPOC community, which is
Mm.
very large, so I could say more particularly in my experiences as a Black woman when it comes to the outdoors, there is a really real fear of going
Mm.
outside for a number of historic reasons. But when I was working in the outdoor industry, sometimes people would say, well, it's really difficult. Like, why can't I find a Black surfer? Or why do Black people not gravitate towards these sports? First of all, that's kind of wrong because there are so many Black surfers all over the world, but I won't get into that. But the second part is sometimes people don't consider the fact that over 50% of African Americans don't know how to swim is
Mm.
because of, I mean, slavery, having to be in ships, literally sent over here to the United States in boats. In addition to that, segregation and people not being able to use pools. And in addition to that, being afraid that if we go off into wild spaces that we might not come back. And
Mm.
that's a fear that I know so many BIPOC people experience, the indigenous community experiences, and there's a really real fear there. So when people are talking about outdoor equity, I think what you mentioned earlier is so important. It's not just about the resources to go outside, but it's making sure that these places feel safe. And also that outdoor enthusiasts are able to kind of reckon with that painful history that might be causing a lot of people to not want to, go out and explore or go for a swim in the wilderness because they might not feel safe out there. So very important to consider.
I love that you brought that up because I think that it is, yeah, it's so important to realize like what's the historical context here? Like how did we get here? And it's built off of a country and their racist history, their like colonized history. And even to think about like how we have like defined outdoorsy too. It's such a white concept. It's such a colonizer concept. It is not one that truly is connected with nature at all either. So I really think it's important to look backwards in order to really build a more equitable future. And yeah, I'm really thankful to learn from people like you and incredible other people in the outdoor space like Teresa Baker, Jose Gonzalez, people that are legends that have been at this for so long. So I highly recommend anyone watching this, write down Teresa Baker, write down Jose Gonzalez, to start there. Unlikely hikers. These are people doing amazing work to truly redefine, what outdoorsy really looks like. So I'm really just proud of the work, and I feel like I do the work on the shoulders of greats. So, and Leah, like to your point too, like I really think for queer people as well, I want to acknowledge the privilege I have here too of when I take off these 85 pounds of makeup, I can straight pass. And that's such a privilege. But for my trans friends who are going into the outdoors and are using restrooms in completely rural spaces, it's an unsafe experience for them before they even get outdoors, Gendered bathrooms, even the outdoors. Like, why are these things a thing, And I think we have a lot of work to do to make a lot more people feel comfortable and safe and ready to have a positive experience outdoors. But I want to flop this question and ask you something like,
Yeah.
tell me about some Black joy outdoors. Like, tell me about some positives that you're seeing. Tell me about like even just some restful moments from your own experience, from people around you. Like, I don't just want to talk about the problems. Like, let's talk about like literally what we're doing to truly experience joy in these outdoor spaces.
I love that so much, and clearly from my big smile, that made me feel really joyful. And also, a really important note to mention when we're talking about climate injustice or environmental injustice, it's also really important to talk about like joy in the
Mm.
outdoors or even climate solutions that are being pioneered by BIPOC. So, thank you so much for asking that. But about a year ago, I guess, after the Black Lives Matter movement and just seeing so much like Black trauma, I decided to just start posting about Black outdoor joy a little bit more. So just posting about my adventures outside, whether that's in my grandma's backyard and just seeing her garden, or just posting about going on hikes for, just going out on a hike or something like that. And there are so many other amazing creators. Check out Diversify Van Life that are also kind of reclaiming the narrative by also posting about their joy outside. There's a book called Black Nature that inspired me to do this. It's over 100 years of nature poetry written by African Americans, just talking about the joys and the beauties of being outdoors. And I think rooting myself in that Black outdoor joy is what helps me continue to do this work, because I
Mm.
think everyone has a unique relationship with nature that oftentimes is because, or in part, shaped by their identity. So my reason for caring for this planet so much is so intertwined with my Black identity. So yeah, I'm going to experience some joy out there, and I hope everyone is able to do that for themselves as well. So thank you for mentioning that. What about you? I mean, you post a lot of joyful things, like your videos are very joyful. But what about you?
Thank you so much, Leah. Yeah, I love your answer. I think it's so important to share those stories of joy. And you know what? Like, let's acknowledge kind of like the elephant in the room. Like, people love trauma shares. They don't love joy shares. And people really love like sensational things. And really, I think we really need to focus on joy and really promoting a community that's based on joy. Because before I joined the environmental movement, I thought it was this doom and gloom place where people were so serious or bust. And it was like me against the world. And what I'm experiencing in the intersectional climate movement is truly rooted in community, rooted in joy, rooted in learning from each other, learning how to do things 1% better every day, and truly just, yeah, the joy of people, the joy of community. And I'm so glad I have that, because that keeps me going. This is not easy work. It's not easy to care about something when you feel like you're the only one, but when we can do things collectively, like fight for outdoor equity collectively or fight for our climate collectively, we can get a ton of stuff done. So yeah, I think when you ask that question, like the thing that comes to my mind is like, we hear all the time that like we have to fight for our climate, when really I think, yes, and we have to connect to our climate. Like, we have to get outside, we have to experience the beauty and the joy of the outdoors, because if we aren't connected to it, we're not going to fight for it. We fight for what we love. So let's fall in love with each other, especially people that are doing ourselves. Let's fall in love with this planet in our own unique ways. And let's use those lenses and like actually be able to take action in unique ways, you know, and fight for what we love. So yeah, I'm going to advocate for that till the day that this drag queen falls off the side of a mountain in her high heels. So here we are. But
No, no.
yeah, I'm here for the joy. And that's not because